Alright, so welcome back to another video. So in a previous video, I took a 4th generation CRV, a 2012 to 2014, and did a facelift to make it look like a 15 or 16. Today's video is going to be how to take your 15 or 16 LX, EX, EXL and add the touring projector headlamps. So in my case, on my LX, it just has these halogen regular lamps, and these are the style that we want to install. So if you have an EX or an EXL, this is going to be a relatively easy project for you. Basically, all you have to do is remove the stock headlights. Uses all the same connectors. Everything should plug right in. If you have an LX or an SE, like in my case, they do not have a daytime running lamp LED. They use the high beam on a low power, kind of like the 12 to 14s did as the daytime running light. Honda saved probably a whole $3.50 by not including the LED strip in this headlight assembly. So kudos to them. In 2017, they made it a standard feature to have the LED daytime running light. So basically, we're gonna have to add just a little bit of wiring, a circuit to power the daytime running light. It's relatively easy if you aren't afraid to work on your car a little bit. So the first thing I need to do is get the old headlights out and put the new headlights in. And unfortunately on Hondas, they're all about the same. It's not extremely hard, but it does take time. We're going to have to remove the grille assembly and the whole front bumper cover, which is not as bad as it sounds, trust me, to get to the bolts to get the headlight out. Alright, so to remove the grille, we're going to need to remove some of these plastic push pins that are retaining it. There's one here, looks like here, 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 and then there are retainers holding into the bumper below, but it should come off with the bumper. The grille and the bumper will come off as one piece. Once we get those out, we'll move on to the bumper. To get it off, it's not too bad. There is this cover, or this little push pin here, and then there's a screw right there, and it is clipped in under the headlight. There's also a bunch of those plastic rivets under the front of the vehicle that you just pop out. Once you get all of those out, there's really nothing holding the bumper on. You just want to be really careful when you pull it out from this line here and under the headlight, because it is just clipped on, and if you tear the tabs on the bumper, it will make it hard to put back together. So I found the best way to get these out is kind of just starting with like a little screwdriver, a little flathead. You can also use like a cat claw type tool. Just want to make sure we don't break them. You can pull them out as kind of one piece like that, and then just put them somewhere where you won't lose them. There is a little spot right here where the grille is just kind of snapped into the headlight. You just want to kind of carefully pry it loose like that after we get our clips out. You don't want to break any of the plastic clips. That should be good enough. That side's kind of already out. Can't really do anything else until I get the rest of the bumper off, so I'm going to go ahead and pull those clips off the side, take those 2 Phillips head screws out, and all the clips underneath. Alright, so I almost forgot to tell you a step. So there's these little plastic clips, like I said, under here, but we have to take them out. You don't have to take this whole thing off, but most of the clips out. So remove this piece of trim, because behind this piece of trim, you can see, is a screw. That screw also holds the bumper cover on. Alright, so on each side, there's a 10mm bolt that comes out way down in the bottom corner. We've got on each side too these plastic clips here. Alright, so now we're just going to carefully, so you can see just a little closer, didn't break any of those under the headlight, which is good. Broke a couple of these over here though. It's really hard not to. And then just lightly, there it goes. Screws holding on, but you know what? That's good enough. I'm just gonna set it down right there because now I can reach everything I need to get this switched out real quick. Okay, so easiest way to show you is on the new light here. So there's this piece here, and the bolt basically goes through it. Well, that is underneath here. So we remove this bolt, and then there's one underneath. Which is here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 connection points to get the headlight out. They look like 10 millimeters there and there and up here. And this is just a clip. And we should be able to get the headlight out. And we're just going to quickly set the new one in place. Comes with all the bulbs already. I'm going to be doing an LED upgrade for the high beam and the projector, but we can do that once it's in place. There's plenty of room to reach everything. Basically, we're unbolting there the bracket that holds it on. Get that out. Now should just have this clip up here. One more holding this bracket right here. Of course I can't reach without an extension. Okay, it's finally out. Just have some wiring clips that are holding it in. Alright, there's the assembly. So I'm not going to take it anywhere. What we need to do is we need to take this little bracket off. It's held on the bottom by another 10 millimeter bolt, and then I'll just bolt it right to the new headlight before I put it in. And real quick, so while I'm putting this new bracket, transferring it over, these are Depot brand headlights. They're not OEM Honda, which is fine. It's fine not to use OEM Honda as long as you make sure that they are, it's called Kappa certified, which means they're guaranteed to fit like OEM and function like OEM. Just gonna get this bracket transferred over here. Just gonna get this put back in place. Obviously, you're gonna make sure everything fits just where it's supposed to. Honda kind of uses their headlights as like part of the front structure of the car. Bunch of Honda clips on hand when you're doing a project like this, because there's about 100% chance that you're going to break a lot of the clips. Alright, so maybe a little clear on this side, then remove the wiring first. Alright, so I had a helper come over and push the headlight while I got this clip in. I loosened the other bolts back up, pulled this one in first, because I had a gap here, and I wanted to make sure that the headlight to the fender was nice and tight. Now I'll tighten everything back down where it's supposed to be. Once you get up in place, you kind of want to get the middle pushed into place where it needs to be first. I broke this piece of plastic right here, unfortunately, when I was taking it off. stuff's made of like the most brittle crap. But, so if we kind of get the middle kind of popped in where it needs to go like that, then we just kind of wrap the sides where they need to go. And work from the middle out. So we're going to push those tabs under. And right here we push those tabs back in. And we put that big screw in here. Close up this gap. Make sure you get it looking correctly. And once you get the screw in the side end, get this trim kind of put back where it's supposed to go. Alright, so get all your clips put back in. Those two 10mm bolts off the bottom. The screws on the side. And if you broke any clips, make sure you get those put back in. And get your clips put back in the top. And the actual job of getting the headlights put in is done. Now it's on to the little bit of wiring we have to do. Okay, so if you had an EX or above, you just plug your wiring harnesses back in where you unplugged them. But since this is an SE model, which is like an LX, and I'm going to be upgrading to LEDs, there's a little bit more to do. Okay, so I'm using these Hikari Hyperstar LEDs. These work really, really good in projectors because they just put out a ton of light, so the projectors can focus them well. I don't know if I'd recommend them in like a reflector headlight, but I'm also using the 9005 version for the high beams as well, because obviously when your brights are on, that's the whole point, as much light as possible, even though those are in the reflector housing. So these are just plug and play. There's nothing required. You can see they have a little heatsink and fan. It's quiet. You don't really even hear it running at all unless the lights are on and the car's off. You can kind of hear a little bit of a hum, but not really. So it's just as simple as unscrewing those and screwing these in to get the bulbs in. And we'll save the LED strip for last. Basically, I'm going to get these bulbs put in, and then when it gets dark, make sure the aim is good on the lights. It's always important. It's actually really easy to aim them. There is just, you can see the little adjuster there. You stick a Phillips screwdriver straight down into the slot and turn it to adjust up and down. Alright, so I highly recommend doing the LED, especially in the projector. You can see kind of the color temperature, how the light looks. Alright, so now that we've got our headlights installed, we're ready to hook up the daytime running light circuit. So what I need to do that is get a 12 volt source of ignition power that's only on when the key is in the number 2 position. And there's a good spot in the fuse box on the inside to grab that. Believe it or not, there's really no good spot under the hood to pull that 12 volt ignition source. So what I'm making use of is, if you look down here in the engine compartment, there's this connector down near the headlight harness with a blue wire, and that is for a set of fog lights. So if you wanted to install a set of Honda plug and play type, it's a little more than that, but fog lights, you can do that. But the nice thing is that blue wire runs from there to right under the dash to where the circuit or the fuse panel is. So what I'm going to do is grab my 12 volt ignition source from this pin here. So if we look in the instrument panel, there's these 2 pins. So the one I'm pointing at here is the one I'm going to be using. And then I'm going to put like a 5 amp fuse, and I'm going to make a little harness with a female spade connector on one end and a male spade connector on the other. And that will, the female spade connector will plug into the fuse panel, and the male spade connector will plug into that pin on the inside, the blue wiring. And then out here, same thing. This is a male spade. So I'll take a female spade. And basically what we need for our lights is it's 3 wires. And it is a connector that looks like this right here. Now this connector is used as like a crank position sensor connector on Hondas as well. So I'll leave a part number and a link in the description. Sometimes the links go bad and you have to try to get a different part, but it's like a crank position sensor for like a Honda. I'll leave a description down below where I got these. So you need 2 of them, and these will actually plug into the daytime running light port on the back of the headlight. So like I said, if you have an EX or above, you're going to have this wire and you're just going to plug it in and it's going to work. But for those of us with an LX or an SC, if you have a 2016, we don't have this. So basically how this is going to work, so all 3 wires are red. All right, I'm going to try to make this as easy as possible for those of you at home. So like I said, all right, so I'm going to try to make this as easy as possible for you to copy at home. So like I said, on this harness here, this is the top with the snap part of the connector. On the left side will be ground. The middle will be our 12 volts when just the DRLs are on and the parking lights aren't. And then this is our parking light feed. Now the problem is you cannot have the 12 volt ignition feed on, because if you turn on the parking lights, this will override it and it will not dim the daytime running light circuit. So we have to introduce a relay into the circuit. So this is just a standard automotive relay. I'll have links in the description. It's simple, it's 5 wires, and we will need all 5 wires for this application. So on a relay, you have a coil side, which is our 85 and 86, and that's going to be our positive and negative from the parking lights. You have an 87A, which when the relay is not energized, it's connected to the 30. So basically, that's going to be our 12 volt DC ignition feed. So when the ignition's on, but the parking lights aren't on, that's going to complete the circuit, and it's going to go into that middle wire, the output from the relay on this harness here. When we turn the parking lights on, it will energize the relay, and it will switch that gate this way to 87, and then the output of 87 will be connected to the 3rd wire here, and it will cut off the middle wire, if that makes sense. And I drew up a diagram that I'll put on the screen here now, which is basically how you need to wire it. So again, our inputs to the coil 85 and 86 are interchangeable as far as polarity. Our 12 volt DC ignition feed, that blue wire, we're going to connect to the 30 on the relay. The 87A terminal is going to go to that middle DRL wire on the harness that runs into the back of the headlight. And then the 87 is going to connect to the far right parking light wire. And then I'm going to build a harness, obviously, that splits that, so it plugs into this headlight over here, runs across the front of the engine bay, and plugs in to the other one over there. And to do that, I've just got some 3 conductor wire here that's in a jacket. You can use whatever 3 conductors you want. All right, so here's my wiring, basically roughly wired up. I'm going to put some wire loom on everything. So I need to connect, it's the white wire that comes out of my relay, but that doesn't really matter because the wire colors can be different on everything. But that is the parking light feed, which will connect to the yellow wire on that I've stripped off here. Got our black ground wire, which is the ground that runs to everything, both DRL harnesses and ground on the relay, which is our number 85 terminal, and we're going to ground that to the black wire in that harness that we stripped off. Then from the output wires here, well, we have the blue wire, that is our number 30 terminal, that will run into, just happens to be the blue wire in the factory thing, so I put a female crimp on there. I'll put a little dielectric grease, and that will go in there, the little female spade terminal. And then we have our DRL wire, which is our 87A terminal, which runs to, say that right, I said that wrong, sorry. Our red wire, which is our 87A terminal, which runs to the middle wire in the connector, and I used the red wire that'll be to the middle wire on the other connector, and that'll be what that's for. And then last but not least, our parking light feed, which is the 87 wire, which runs to the white wire, which goes to the other parking light feed, and then runs to the far right-hand connector. Again, it's all in the diagram. Put that on the screen again. But once I get all this like shrinked up here, we'll be able to try it out and make sure that everything works. All right, so here's the wiring all finished up. It's kind of hard to see. I got the relay, everything's zip tied, everything's in wire loom. Got my blue wire plugged in down there. Plugged into our DRL socket. So I'll get some light. So you kind of see what's going on there. Then I've got the harness loomed, and it runs right across the front of the engine bay here with this other harness. Then I've got them terminated over here. You can see it runs down into this socket here. Right, one left thing to do, we'll just test it out and make sure everything works. All right, so here's the finished product. So if we turn the ignition on, you can see that our lights come on bright mode. If we turn on our parking lights or headlights, they dim. So we'll turn off the parking lights. See, they're bright. And that's our relay clicking on and off. All right, so hopefully I explained it good enough. I know it probably seems kind of intimidating when you saw the wiring I had to do with the relay and all that, but I promise you, if you just follow my diagram and you've done any kind of wiring in automotive, you can tackle this project. So if you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them below. Again, I'll have links in the description to everything I used to get this project done. And be sure to like the video, and until next time, we'll see you later.